This is a recording that I wanted to about my brother. It's a story about my brother and me, and it goes back to many years ago when I think I was 9 years old, and my brother is 8 years older than I am. So when he was 17, he joined the Navy and he left home. And of course, he never came back other than just short periods to visit. And so we were not really close because there was such a big difference in age. And after the I grew up and my brother was out of the Navy and he worked and lived in Portland and Seattle and other places where it was far from me. But over those years as an adult, we became friends and periodically we would get together and try to schedule it so that we could play golf once a year someplace. And usually we played in our hometown, which is in La Grande, Oregon. That's up in the eastern corner of Oregon, if you're not familiar. But the thing that was kind of a difference, I guess, with my brother was that he never knew that I became a Christian as a child. And of course, then as an adult, he didn't know that I was a Christian, and he was not a Christian. In fact, he was very antagonistic toward Christianity. And so I realized in my 20s, 30s that I really needed at some point to share with my brother that I was a Christian and that this is what I stood for and it was important to me and that he needed to know that I thought it was important for him too. But it was, as all of us do, there was never a good time to do that. And I put it off and I put it off. And finally, it became a fairly heavy burden for me. And I knew I had to do it. I was in Bible study fellowship then, and I realized through Bible study fellowship that it was important to share with people where you are and who you are. And so I continued to put it off. And then one night I had this dream, and it was a very vivid dream and one that I remembered every detail afterward. And my brother was standing before the great white throne judgment, and he looked across, and all the people that have ever lived were there, and everyone could hear perfectly. And my brother came before the great white throne judgment, and he looked across at me, and he said, "Why didn't you tell me? Out of all of the people that have ever lived, I would have listened to you. Why didn't you tell me?" And I woke up, and it was such a vivid, great dream, and it was such a heavy burden that I knew I had to do something. And so I prayed about it and finally decided I needed to give a good message. And I used a passage that's in several of the Gospels, and it's one of the parables that Jesus spoke. And the one that I used was the one from Luke, and it's in Luke chapter 5. And Jesus is talking here to the Pharisees, and the Pharisees are being very judgmental about him and what he's doing. And so Jesus uses this parable that I'm reading now, starting in verse 34. Jesus answered, "Can you make the guests of the bridegroom fast while he is with them? But the time will come when the bridegroom will be taken from them. In those days they will fast." And then he goes on to the parable. "No one tears a patch from a new garment and sews it on an old one. If he does, he will have torn the new garment, and the patch from the new will not match the old. And no one pours new wine into old wineskins. If he does, the new wine will burst the skins. The wine will run out, and the wineskins will be ruined. No, new wine must be poured into new wineskins, and no one after drinking old wine wants the new, for he says the old is better." What Jesus is talking about in this parable, the wine represents his message, and the old wineskins are the Pharisees. The new wineskins are you and me. And I used this parable to explain to my brother that what would have happened in the town where we grew up if Jesus had come to that town and he entered and looked at the people that were there. He would have come and he would have found us. he would have found my brother and me among many other people, because we would have been like the new wineskins, and his message would have been for us, and it would have been absolutely transforming. And so I did, I don't know how many pages the letter was I wrote to my brother, but I explained all of this, and then I, I talked about verses that are salvation verses so that I could give a good, clear message of salvation too, and said, you know, this is what would have happened. Jesus would have come for us. He would not, he may have gone to the churches first like he did the Pharisees, but if they didn't receive his message, he would have found the new wineskins in you and me. And so I sent this letter, a long letter, and nothing happened. I didn't hear anything about it, and I found out then sometime later that it made him really angry, and that I was. But he kept it. He kept the letter, and he carried it around in his back pocket. And I know from talking to him then later, he shared it with a number of people. He's given this letter and have them read it, and he'd say, "Look what my brother sent me. What do you think of that?" And someone told him and said, "Well, your brother must care very much for you to send you a letter like that." We had a conversation about it a few times, and to the best of my knowledge, my brother never accepted Christ. And that's a very sad part of my life. But the reason I'm sharing this is because I think that chances are every one of you has someone in your life that you're close to, and they may not know that you're a Christian. And I encourage you to make sure that you let them know. If you don't feel comfortable in talking to them, write them a letter. Use this passage in Luke and use the old wineskins and the new wineskins to tell them about what Jesus would have done if he had come to your town and talked to you and your friend. And I just encourage you to pray about this and share this with everyone that you know, because I think it's a very important message. And I've delayed recording this for a long time because it was very hard for me to do it. And so I hope this is an encouragement to you. And if you do this and you use it, tell me. I'd like to know about it.